I'm Jasmine Moradi, and you're listening to the Queens of Tech podcast, a podcast series about raising the voice of workplace champions. 60 plus questions in around 30 to 40 minutes with women of color, non-binary, and transgender influencers about their journey into STEM, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. I started the Queens of Tech podcast initiative in May 2022 because I would like to retain more women of color, non-binary, and transgenders in the tech industry. Talent is out there, but our work environment needs to improve for all to feel safer, stay authentic, and to be valued for our contributions. My vision is to raise the workplace ecosystem for all in tech by killing the imposter syndrome, stopping bad behavior, and increasing equity opportunities. Each podcast talk is built around 60 plus questions regarding upbringing, education, career path, DIB, and future advice. My mission is to bridge the gap between schools and workplaces by getting into the heart of my guest's personal life and career journey to inspire other girls, women of color, non-binary, and transgenders to unleash their full potential to reach top leadership roles in the tech industry. My goal is to raise the voices of tech champions around the world and together with companies, investors, and politicians, raise the challenges and opportunities around equity, inclusive, diversity, and belonging in our workplaces. Enough is enough. I would like to enforce companies to build a sustainable, inclusive culture to retain diverse talent so we keep the workforce power equity to continue building future diverse and inclusive products. Representation matters. Your voice matters. In this episode, I'm very excited to welcome my guest, tech queen Adaeze Iloeje-Udeogalanya, founder and CEO of African Women in STEM, and leadership and strategy coach and TEDx speaker. Hi, Adaeze.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you? I'm very happy to have you joining us today.
I'm very happy to be here, honestly. I've been enjoying all the other episodes. It's fun.
Thank you very much. So now let's dive into your journey into STEM. Hope you're ready for the Queens of Tech 60 plus questions.
I think I am.
Let's warm up with a few fun facts about you. How would you describe your personality in 3 hashtags?
I'll say confident, resilient, and kind.
How would you summarize your life in 3 sentences?
The first part will be like an extended spring season with periods of growing and blossoming. Then the second part will be like I'm on this island that is filled with flowers and berries, but you also have like vines and thorns. And then the last part, which is kind of what I'm living right now, is a period of abundance. Like I'm still evolving and I'm still unfolding, and I'm excited to see what the future holds.
What kind of music stimulates and motivates you the most?
That's a hard question because I love music. However, I realize I love instruments better. So the African drum, I love it absolutely. And for me, it's more like a spiritual experience. When I listen to the drums, it's almost like I'm communicating with some higher power spirits. Yes.
What is your personal motto?
Live fully, stay curious.
What is your favorite book?
Okay, that's a hard one. It's like asking me who my favorite child is. However, the latest book that I read that I absolutely love is Outwitting the Devil by Napoleon Hill. I recommend it.
What is your favorite podcast?
That's a hard one too, but I'll go back to the very first podcast that I listened to, which is How I Built This by Guy Raz. Love it. It changed my life.
Mac or PC?
PC.
There's something interesting about you that most people don't know.
My God. Okay, so I'm only tech, money is STEM, but I'm also like a multi-talented creative. So the creative side of me is, I don't know, it's very rich and all of that. It's not my work part, but it actually has helped me a lot with being a good engineer, being a good STEM professional, and being a good leader. So I can literally do anything except draw.
What is your hidden talent then?
Ooh, this one is so hidden. I don't think it's ever going to come out in the way it used to. But I used to be a comedian when I was in college.
You're going to write a book about your life then. What would the title be?
It will be My Voice, My Story. And the reason I say that is my personal journey, I had a voice, I lost it, I found again. And then the thing about your story is there's this African proverb that the hunter is always going to be the victor unless the lion learns to ride.
Great start. Now let us dig deeper. Our childhood has a profound effect on our adulthood. Our early experiences shape our belief about ourselves, others, and the world. I want to discover your childhood then. Adaeze, where did you grow up and how did it shape your early experiences?
Okay, so I grew up in Nigeria. I grew up in a town called Nsukka. It's in the eastern part of Nigeria. It's a university town. So they built the university in the 60s and the town grew around it. So my parents are both distinguished professors. Everybody around me were either professors or working in the school. So there was a kind of expectation when it comes to life and the things that you do, like, for example, going to college was just a thing. You did it. Everybody's on campus. Doing a master's was like, okay, you have to. Doing a PhD. And if you decide to go to industry, fine, then you have to be the best at what you do. So there was this very environment that pretty much like nurtured and encouraged me, that I kind of felt it was a matter of, do I want to do this or not? And then I just have to go ahead and do it because I can't be the only one who is not excelling.
But growing up around that, did you have like your own dream job as a child that you want to do that was not a part of that?
Actually, I don't know. I had a dream job before I even realized what my environment was like. So I wanted to be an astronaut. And that's because I used to watch a lot of cartoons, in those days, and they had all these astronauts, and I started to zip and zap.
So what was your favorite subject in school?
Maths, any day.
What was your least favorite subject?
Ooh, biology. Not the theory. Like, I could do that. The practical part of it, because I can't stand the sight of blood. I mean, apart from mine and my kids. And I hated the practical part. I remember one time that I walked into the lab and I saw frogs, on the table. I ran out. So the teacher had to send my friend to tell me that if I didn't come back, I was going to get an F. But I managed to talk to my lab partner and he did all the work. But that's definitely one reason why I hated biology.
And what is your earliest memory of technology and the arrival of the internet?
It's funny, those are two different incidents. My earliest memory of technology, I guess technology has always been around us, like, TV, blenders and stuff. But the time that actually struck me what technology could do was when I was a kid, I watched a series called Knight Rider. It was about this guy that had a car that could talk and drive itself. I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. My earliest memory of the internet, I mean, the one that really stuck was the dawn of 2000 when they were like, oh my God, the world is going to end.
And which were the three first technology gadgets you owned and how did it influence your interest in tech going forward?
I used to love reading a lot. So I remember having this audiobook, so the player that actually played the audio. And then I'll say I consider my brother's toys mine too. So his remote control car. And I had an electric piano too when I was growing up. So, but interestingly enough, it's not the gadgets that made me go into STEM. What made me go into STEM was just figuring out how to make life easier for women. I grew up in Nigeria. It's a very interesting culture. A lot of the things they do are hard for no reason. So I was just thinking, what would I do to create this thing that would just do the work, instead of us doing it?
And during that period of time, who would you say was your female role model growing up and what about her inspired you?
Oh my goodness, my mom. And why she was my role model was, one, she was fearless. She's multi-talented. Like, when I talk about creative arts, everything I know she taught me, to crochet, to knit, to macrame, to anything. We're always doing projects. I could sew, whatever. She also helped me be really curious, right? Because, for example, like I remember when she would say, she'd bring like a piece of item, like of food, like plantain, and be like, how many different meals can you make from this? So in my mind, I always feel that the different solutions to the problem. The idea that I could do whatever, and if I wanted to do something, I have to figure it out. I could figure it out.
So based on everything you said, how do you think then where you grew up and the school you went to and the generation you come from influenced then your education and career choice now?
It's a lot of things. One thing for sure is that talking about, because of the environment I grew up in and the family I grew up in, talking about my career, what I wanted to be when I grew up was just a normal conversation. And with my dad, it was always like, oh, I want to be an astronaut. Why do you want to be an astronaut? I had to go think about it. And now changed my mind. I want to be a botanist. Why do you want to be a botanist? I had to go think about it. So the whole idea of wanting to have a career, and then in school, we started earlier on to start thinking of like career development and how you choose your courses. It was very normal. And you saw examples of people that were, for example, engineers, doctors, and so on, because people around you, your family were all of that. And then my dad literally also kind of involved us in the things that he did, like the projects that he worked on. So he didn't directly tell me to be a mechanical engineer, but kind of like absorbed it in a way. But I'll say my mom helped me make the decision when I had a conversation with her about this is the reason why I want to study engineering. And she said, this sounds like what your father does. And I'm like, okay, now I have to do it. And also just growing up in that community and that era, I mean, we're fiercely independent because you pretty much took care of yourself to a large extent. When where you wanted to go, it was a safe environment. I mean, everybody knew everybody. So there was really no question of, they had boundaries like, this is your playtime, this is where you come back home. But otherwise, you were free to express yourself and explore.
Well, it is very common. So let us dig into your career. But before that, I want to read 2 quotes. First one, how does the universe expect me to choose a career path at 16? I can't even choose what I want for dinner. Again, Abraham Lincoln said, I quote, the best way to predict your future is to create it. So, Adaeze, I want to know now the choices behind your career path. You did mention your parents and you did mention what you studied, but where and what did you end up studying at university?
I studied mechanical engineering for my undergraduate. I loved and hated cooking at the same time. I wanted to create this machine, I write a program, put it at one end, and the food would come out at the other end, selfishly. And then the other thing was about energy, because back home, not every area had electricity. So women in remote areas and stuff like that didn't have that. So my dad did a lot of projects where they use what's local. So if they had a stream, they'll create a dam for them. If it was like in the north, they'll use solar energy and so on. And the one that intrigued me was biogas. So I figured this is something that women can do because they use the waste that they have in their homes to create energy to do that. So that's why I started studying mechanical engineering. Then I switched on to do natural gas engineering and management in master's because somewhere along the line, I think it was my 3rd year, we went to this field trip. I think it was one of the oil producing companies, and I saw they were flaring gas. Like, what in the world is this? They're like, oh, crude oil is better than gas. And, they flare the gas because they want the oil. And I was thinking, so what can we do differently than we can harness it? But nobody's doing that. So I kind of wanted to go into that to make that change. So
what professional roles have you had then before that led you to the current one?
So I did my master's here and I worked a little bit in Nigeria before I moved to the United States. But when I came here, I did a master's and my interest was working in the pipeline industry to figure out how they actually, because we didn't have like pipelines running to homes for gas. So that I can take that back home and build that out. So, starting at entry level, engineering and working all the way up and to senior director role. But one thing interesting about my career is technically, yes, I'm an engineer, but I also did so many things because I like to see the bigger picture. So I kind of got involved with strategy, business process improvement, project management, program management, all the things. Because, especially in my early years, I was always going into my chief engineer's office and be like, ah, boy, what else? So I got a chance to actually do things that normally people don't do, like, create softwares and launch things products that a company use for their business and so on. So I can say I had a well-rounded career. Now I am running my own company. I'm the founder and CEO of African Women in STEM. And the reason I'm here is because of my experience in my career, having very few women in my industry. And I wanted to be able to change that, the whole idea that even though we find ourselves the only one, we can find a way to bring ourselves together, work together to make our careers, better and more successful.
So what is it exactly African Women in STEM do, and what are your main responsibilities then?
So basically, our mission is to empower women to take ownership of their career, because that's the biggest thing. It's hard to say this is what I want to do and how I want to do it where you don't have a lot of support. Maximize your potential and pay forward, because there's always paying back. I'm like, paying back is a long way into the future. Paying forward, you can do it as you go, because the whole idea is somebody doesn't have to wait 10 years like I did, for example, to figure out certain things in their career. So that's our mission. That's what we do. We focus a lot on career development, leadership development, and leadership development in particular, because a lot of the issues that women have is transitioning from the technical role to the leadership role, or even if they choose to stay in the technical role, being seen as the leaders that they are. So again, back to owning your career and being able to articulate your values so that you can lead the way you want to or transition the roles to the roles that you're interested in.
And what does a typical work day or work week look like for you?
First of all, my business is barely a year old, so at some point it'll make sense. But now a little everything. So my day starts, like in the morning, I do like creative things because I'm a visionary. I think a lot. When I have ideas, I write them down. I do whatever writing I have to do, whatever editing I have to do. And then after that, if there are tasks that come out of those ideas, I work on them, like, creating assets for the business or programs that I'm running or, things for my clients, I like to hold my meetings in the afternoons, early afternoon. And then for the most part, because I'm in some programs in accelerators or something, if there are meetings, I go to those. And I'm always learning because, again, I'm been to be everything in my business right now, from marketing and sales to communications to event planning. So I do take time to do trainings like in the evenings, either to learn how to use the software or just figure out how to learn work better. So
Interesting. And I love the quote, choose a job you love and you will never have to work a day in your life. So, Adaeze, what do you love the most about your role?
the fact that there are no limitations to what I can do, because all my career I've had this dream about what I wanted to do, how I wanted to change lives, how I wanted to help people. Right now is that if you can dream it, you can believe it, it can happen. I like the fact that I actually can make an impact in people's lives every day. I like the fact that I meet people, incredibly amazing people, and I'm able to do something right away with those people and those relationships and actually create impact as I go along. I absolutely love the fact that I'm discovering incredibly talented people that are doing amazing things. So I said I work in the energy industry my entire career, but now I have the opportunity to actually open up to everything else, STEM, and tech, and just the way people think in other industries is just intriguing to me. So it's always like every day I don't know what to expect, and I'm happy and excited to learn.
And what has been the best experience you've had so far? Any examples you can share with us?
Oh my goodness. So for me, it's just the impact that I've had on the women I work with in after many STEM or in my coaching. I believe if you're in STEM, you're smart, period. Basically what happens is that somewhere along the line you kind of lose faith in yourself. So one of the things we do, again, I talked about, career and leadership development and helping women just to learn how to articulate their value, because that's the biggest thing. So we've had people in the community, like there was this lady, she was graduating from college, and you know how it is. I mean, there's that fear, am I going to get a job? I don't know what to do. And I've been holding this monthly series, like a leadership series, and we teach different things. And we also mentor and coach people interviewing and what to say and things like that. Anyway, she had attending those events. She was actually a regular. By the time she left, she was able to get 5 job offers when she was in school. And she's like, is it because of all the things she learned from all the events I was hosting and all the teachings I was giving? And I have another lady that was transitioning to a different industry. Again, she was looking for a job. When you're pivoting, most times the tendency is to get lowballed, So again, the whole thing about what is the right you bring? You have a PhD. She had a PhD. She had work experience. This is a different industry, but that doesn't mean you don't have transferable skills. So we had those conversations. And also back to the fact that if you can articulate your value, you can get it done. So she was able to get a job in a senior position with a bigger pay than she expected. Those are things that actually make me happy because I believe women are excellent. I just want them to be excellent and to just have the faith and the courage with the help and with the learning.
Amazing. I love what you do. Impressive. And it's exactly what is needed and what is lacking. However, what is the biggest challenge you've encountered? Because that comes with the passion and you want to do everything. And how did you end up tackling it?
Okay, my biggest challenge, I'll say, goes back to mindset. So be careful what you say. Because years ago, I told myself I will never be an entrepreneur. That is not for me. I can never do that. I hired a coach because I was trying to figure my life out. And 2 weeks into the African Minister was born. And I fought it for like a long time. And I was like, no, this is not me. I'm not doing this. So the challenge that I had in my business was just that transition from, okay, now I'm in business. Now I have to do all those things that I said I hated about business before. One of them was selling. I did all the wrong things. And again, it was coming from a place of fear. Like I'd rather give it out for free than ask people to pay for it. Because in my mind, I just kind of felt like I am becoming one of those people that absolutely hear it or something like that. So it was just working on my mindset and realizing that this is serving. Somebody told me that if you have something to offer and you don't offer it, you're denying people of the opportunity to be better. So you are actually being a bad person. So it was a lot of work on my mindset and then working on the techniques itself because I did business development, but I didn't do sales per se, but understanding what I have to learn and actually finding the people that spoke to me in a way that I could learn. I'm still making progress, but a long way away. And last year, I launched a crowdfunding campaign, and that was the biggest test of sales in my life. I learned so much.
Amazing. Congratulations. And what do you wish everybody understood about your role?
Oh my goodness. So again, I worked in corporate for 20 years. I come from a family of academicians. I mean, everybody has a PhD. So a lot of the people in my circle, they're in corporate. They don't get what I do. They don't get how hard it is to be an entrepreneurship. So I can't even have these conversations with them. So I wish I understood that this is not just a small thing. I wish I understood that this is so much bigger than I can imagine. And I wish I understood that I'm actually heading somewhere quite incredible. They kind of get it, but they don't. So what I'm doing is building a community around myself of people like me, who understand me, who I can just have a conversation with, and they'll get it and give me what I need to get to the next step.
And what is the one common myth about your professional field that you want to disapprove for us?
This whole leadership thing, I'll shout it from the rooftops until the cows come home, that women in STEM or women in tech, they're not good leaders. And that's not true. We just have a different style of leadership. So last week I heard this guy, I think his name is Darren Hardy. He says something about the fact that most of what we know as individuals, we learn from mimicking. Like when kids are young, they mimic what their parents do. So he said that for leadership as it is now in corporate America, is basically what people learn from mimicking the leaders from the 20th century. And there's a reason why they were the way they were, because there were 2 world wars, the Cold War, all of that thing. So the leaders had to be authoritarian, dictators, do as I say, not as I do, all that kind of stuff. This is years later. Some of those things don't exist anymore, but that is what we see as what leadership should be. Women generally don't lead like that. So because we're not that, it's assumed that we don't know how to lead. And to me, that's like, we have a different method of leadership, which actually is the best for the times that we're in. Because we can understand the environment and we can lead in a way that is current to the environment that we're in.
And what is it that you love about working in the tech and the STEM industry?
Oh my God, so many smart people. So during COVID, I think that was like the best time of my life because again, I was in the energy industry. It's a very old Asian industry, like hundreds of years. But during COVID, because everyone was home, I had time to get involved in like Web3, blockchain, and how people went from idea to creating a thing just shocked me. Okay, we don't move like that in my industry. So what I absolutely love about being in this industry is just the talented people, how people are able to create. I've always known it. That's why I'm an engineer, because I wanted to make people's ideas come to life. But seeing the speed at which ideas can come to life and how even ideas that I wouldn't have thought were worth, exploring actually became solutions to problems I didn't know that I had. So that's what I love about this industry.
And Oprah Winfrey said that quote, "Think like a queen. Queen is not afraid to fail. Failure is not a stepping stone to greatness." So what is it? What has by far been your biggest achievement in your career?
I had this project that I handled that was over $500 million cost. And my chief engineer, he was amazing. He was, I suppose so you can say that. And he just knew that I could do it, I guess. I got this project, but it was an interesting time in the industry where, because I was on the consulting side, so clients were trying out new things. So normally they'll hand the project to us, we'll hire contractors, and life is good. But now they decided to do all the subcontracting. But the interesting thing is that as a design engineer, as a project engineer, I have to manage people I have no power over. So that project was one, a test in communication. And the stakes were really high because there were so many processes internally, pipeline. I had, other engineers in civil, structural, electrical, all of that. Then externally, I had like surveyors, environmental scientists. It was a cool thing. And most people were like, we don't report to you, don't pay us, so why should we listen to you? But actually getting everybody to work together towards the ultimate goal of we're trying to get this client the results they want.
So what would you say is the biggest factors help you become successful? What are your success habits?
Building relationships and connections. Getting back to this project I talked about, which is all about communication. Well, I've been like that all my life, to be honest, because I've always been in leadership position, class prefect and that, and I've had to negotiate with people that didn't want to do anything and still got the work done. So translating that to work, I just realized that seeing people as people, seeing them as talented, as people that have something to bring to the project, learning how to communicate with them and connect in a way that helps them understand what our mission is and what our goal is, and that you value their talent and how can you make this work. They take ownership of the project is easier to handle. And they'll actually end up giving me or the project more than I ever imagined if I was going to tell them what to do. So I think the ability to just build genuine relationships and connections that actually make people feel like I want her to succeed. She's my manager, I want her to succeed. So I'm going to do my part and make this work.
And how do you measure your own performance at work knowing you're successful or not?
I used to look at goals like, okay, this is the goal I'm trying to achieve, complete the project. But recently, I focus on the success and the goals. Because basically what I realized, the focus on the goals just made me miss the entire process and miss the journey and miss the joys of the journey. So basically, now if I have something that I need to do, launching the course, for example, is the last part. How long is that going to take me? What are the tasks that I need to do? I break it down by month, by week, by day, all the way down to what I'm supposed to do every day. So if today I'm supposed to outline the course, that's my task, but that's also a measure of success. So if I outline the course, I've won. I move on to the next day. I expand on the outline, I've won. So just focusing on tasks and not just the goals actually has helped me measure success differently and enjoy the journey in the process.
And with success comes failure. So what would you say is your biggest failure though within your career, and what did you end up learning from it?
I don't like the word failure, but in this context, what I'm going to say is not knowing when to walk away from a toxic situation. It's cultural in a sense. Again, I'm from Nigeria, and I'm also from a family where we're expected to achieve. So when I found myself in those situations, I always thought, it has to be because they don't know me or they don't know what I'm about to do. Because I have all these great ideas about how I can move this company forward, and I just need to show them, and then they'll figure it out. And then also, we don't fail at anything. I have plans to succeed at this company and reach this level, so I'm gonna keep going. And it happened so many times that by the time I realized it, I was like, okay. Knowing what to walk away is an amazing skill to have, and that's something that I didn't really do very well. I wouldn't want to experience those things.
What would you say is inspiring and motivating you the most in your role and career right now?
I love meeting people. I love learning from people. So when I started in African Women in STEM, one of the things, the first Women's History Month, and I was like, oh, I want to celebrate African Women in STEM. And I went on Google and trying to find African Women in STEM to celebrate. I couldn't really. And if I found there were like people that were there so long ago, I was like, I've been on LinkedIn for a minute. I know there are people doing things. How come they're not here? I started doing this where I celebrate people every Wednesday. But in the process, because I'm always on the lookout for incredibly amazing people, I realized that I find them. And it's so exciting. So my motivation is people, meeting incredible people, helping people, changing the way people visualize things and see life. Like last weekend, for example, we had this masterclass on women on boards. And every single woman that came to that thing was like, oh my God, this changed my life. I am going to, but I'm going to do things differently, because the speaker talked about the kind of impact and influence you can have if you're on the board, and how all those changes you want to see, you can arrive at them more easily when you have ability to actually change policies and things.
Let us now jump into the influence of mentor, role models, champions, and sponsors. For our listeners, role models can consciously or subconsciously be a perfect force in our lives. In addition, champions can stand up and advocate for us and open up the world of possibilities. Sponsors match emerging talent with leaders and influential employees who can help us move ahead in our careers. Adaeze, do you have a mentor, champion, or sponsor today?
I'll say yes. So I have a lot of champions and cheerleaders, to be honest. I have people that have just taken me on, and already they're like, I think you should meet this person. I think you should meet that person. Or I think I should connect with that person. What you're doing is so amazing. What about this? So right now, to be honest, in my business, I don't think there's any problem that I have right now that I don't have somebody I can reach out to. Either a peer founder, someone that's a few steps ahead of me, or just somebody that's going to be like, yeah, go. I mean, if I want cheerleaders, I'll just take something somewhere and I'll get all the cheers the way you. So I do have that, and I have a lot of support. But then again, it doesn't just come by me sitting down on my own. I actually make the effort to get to meet people, get to know them. And also, when I do that, I'm going with the mind of what can I do for them? How can I help them? How can I elevate them too? So it just makes it so much easier, I guess, for them to also like reciprocate, because I really don't ask for most of the things that I get from a lot of people that I get them from. And I also give freely to other people. So there's this thing about like, good things that come around. So I don't know what I would do without my sponsors, cheerleaders, mentors, and peers.
That is amazing, and because history shows that it's been more common for men having mentor, champions, and sponsors in business than women. So how important do you think is to give advice for our listeners?
Very important. A friend of mine, the lady that gave the Women on Boards masterclass, she talked about like early on in her career, somebody told her that there are 4 people everyone needs in their life. You need a mentor, someone that can show you the ropes. You need a coach, someone that can help you be the best that you can be and also hold you accountable. You need a cheerleader. Again, we talked about someone that will just cheer you on, encourage you, just fill you with all that positive energy. And then you need a sponsor, someone that will promote your career, promote your business, get you access to opportunities that you can never get to on your own. Very important. I think everybody should have all those things in their lives, because I don't know how you can make it to your career or your business without that support.
Let us now move on to leadership. Adina Friedman, presidency of Nasdaq, said, I quote, "Empowering those around you to be heard and valued makes a difference between a leader who simply instructs and one who inspires." And Shirley Sandberg, ex-CEO of Facebook, said, I quote, "Leadership is about making others better as a result of your presence and making sure that the impact lasts in your absence." So, Adaeze, what does leadership mean to you?
Ooh, for me, leadership is a lot about character, how you take action and the action that you take. If you have a vision and if you're also able to communicate that vision to the people around you, and if you're able to inspire people to take action or to change. One of the things that I run into when I work with women is when they talk about leadership, they're talking about the next title that they want. And like, it's right now, you are a leader and you need to see yourself as one. So that when you step into that title that you're looking for, you're just taking it up a notch. So it's not about the title. It's not all about authority, because there are leaders with authority that are titled leaders with authority that are not real leaders, for example. So I think leadership starts with one, self-awareness, self-mastery, understanding yourself, because that's the only way that you can in turn translate all those things I talked about, your vision and all that to other people that you're working with or you're leading.
And what distinguishes a good leader from a bad leader?
Ooh, bad leader, all about me. A good leader makes it about inspiring, empowering, and elevating others. Because we can't take it for granted that people are always going to follow us or do what we say. You're a better leader if you're able to earn that respect and that trust. So definitely that's the difference for me.
Who is your favorite female non-binary or transgender tech leader and why?
Does Oprah count as a leader? I absolutely love her. I think one of my goals in life is to be the Oprah or whatever. It's amazing how she sits down with people and have conversations and just gets them to feel safe and go to a place where they can have conversations that give value. That's not common.
So how would you describe yourself as a leader?
So many things. I'm very empathetic. Sometimes it can get too much because I take on a lot. I'm very intuitive as well. I'm purpose driven and people oriented. Again, I think when you're describing types of leaders, collaborative and transformational are the things that come to mind. I'm the type of leader that when people come into my space or walk around me, they lead better than they came in. That's just a thing, because it goes back to focusing on the people, what do they desire, and then also trying to figure out a way to match that with what I desire to achieve the goals. And then empowering and then even making people bold to dream and then just unlock whatever potential, because one thing that is really important as leaders is to make sure that the people you're leading, you're helping them evolve into the next version of themselves.
And as a leader, what values do you prioritize the most?
Oh, integrity is a big one for me. Leading by example, just being honest and authentic. I think in my career, those are the things I value. And if it's the opposite, it's always been a problem. I value empowerment because I believe that when people feel empowered, it helps them unlock their potential. It helps them unlock that gift that is hidden all the way down inside, or maybe just the surface. But when they do, they can actually work on whatever we're working on together and give me more than I ever imagined and will definitely be successful overall. And again, I talk about being collaborative because I prioritize collaboration. There's something I've been here recently, but I realized that that's how I've always lived my life. The best leaders are the ones that know how to bring out the best in people. They don't have to be the smartest one, but they know how to find the smart people and get them in the room to do the work. I love collaboration and I love sharing ideas and just working together to build things and to make things happen.
And what would you say, what leadership lessons have you learned that have shaped you into the leader you are today?
The leadership lessons that actually further shaped the kind of leader I am from the bad leaders. I had really, really good leaders, but sometimes because it's who I am and what I expect, I appreciate it. But the ones that were most impactful were the ones that were negative because it just made me conscious of the fact that, oh, people are like this. So I have to take special care to not be that person. What do I have to do to learn? What do I have to do to communicate more? What do I have to do to not micromanage, for example, or to give people the space to be themselves or to just be empathetic even more? Also create boundaries and understand that people have boundaries and things like that. So,
And what are your 3 strengths and 3 weaknesses?
empowering others is one strength I have. And recently, I used to be on work mode. I just do things and I move on. One of the things I'm doing last year is to allow myself to receive. So when I hear it over and over again, I'm like, okay, accept this. It's okay. You're not going to explode if you take good compliments. Creating safe spaces where people can actually feel comfortable enough. I hosted an event last year. A lot of women in the room, I'd never met them before. They were strangers to me. They were strangers to one another. At the end of it, it was supposed to be like a career networking thing, but people were talking about everything else besides that. They felt comfortable enough. And they actually created relationships, and everybody left there with two things that they were going to apply to increase their career prospect, their business, and so on. And I came back, I told my husband, I was like, oh my God, like, I think I have to acknowledge the fact that I can create those spaces. Just being a visionary leader, because maybe that might be one of the things that I have to pull myself back sometimes, but I can see, one of my bosses told me you can see the forest for the trees. I was like, okay, thank you. I had to go and Google that. I realized that was the reason why I had issues with certain people earlier in my career, because I did just want to do my task. I wanted to know how that task impacted everything else. And then resilience. Again, I don't think can be a woman in STEM or tech without being very, very resilient. You don't have to do it to a point where it kills you. You just have to find a way to have that balance too. But that has been one of my strengths. Weaknesses: overdoing things, overextending myself. Because again, I talk about being the doomer, like, if I can do it, I just do it. How about things I'm doing and being everything to everyone? Unfortunately, I just don't learn that this year. I've been working on it, but I find this year I've reached the goal I want to have. And then not being able to put myself first. And the thing is, also not celebrating myself. Like, I do something, I move on, and I don't even give other people opportunity to celebrate me.
Let us now jump into the hottest topic in business today, workplace culture, unlocking the power of diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. So, what is it? What does diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging mean to you personally?
For me, it just means life. I like to use the example of, you always talk about the kid in the candy store. Why is that so exciting? Because when they go to the candy store, they have variety. I don't know how diversity can be a bad thing. I don't know how inclusion can be a bad thing. I don't know how belonging can be a bad thing. I just feel like it's life. That's period. But I want to go deeper. I talk about, how do I amplify voices? How do I help people that can't speak, or help people understand that what you're doing might be normal, but actually it's causing XYZ for other people, because there's just a lot going on there. Also, just advocating for equality, building a legacy of belonging, just doing the things that to me are very normal. Like, every day, if I wake up and I'm going to spend more of my time outside of my home in certain spaces, I should be able to be happy, to belong, to feel included, because that's absolutely the only way that I can give my best. And again, it goes down to, why do you want people to work for you, to help the company grow, increase revenue, make profits? It's not easy. Create the spaces and make it happen.
And what do you consider being 3 to 5 signs of good company culture if you were to join a company tomorrow?
It's interesting. I talk about this in my TEDx Talk. So when I was in my do mode, like, if I'm going to work at a company, I'm thinking about, what's this company? Where do they rank? What kind of products are they working on? So excited. I want to be a part of it. And how much are they going to pay me, right? But this third signs of a good company culture, for me, I'm now realizing that it's transparency is key. It's so funny, like, I can walk into an organization and tell immediately. There's some nuances and there's some speak you hear. Having an open line of communication between leadership and the employees. Because again, I understand that leadership can't tell employees everything, but when you do choose to say things, be transparent and open about it. Are there opportunities for growth? So if I look at the organization from entry level all the way to the top, like, what does that look like? And also, what's the work-life balance like? I know people talk about it. I don't like using the word balance, but I'm going to use it because it's the word out there. Your employees are not kids. They're adults. They're here for a reason. One, they went to school and studied something, so they obviously want to make an impact in one way, shape, or form. Some of them have families and people that depend on them that want to take care of. Some of them actually believe in the mission of the company. There are all kinds of reasons why they're there. So let them be and do all those things.
What would you say, as a Black woman, has been the most significant political and cultural barrier in your career, and how have you overcome these challenges?
For me, I talk about this again in my TEDx talk, and that's the reason why I started African Women instead. I'm just very passionate about helping women. It's just being different, period. I didn't think it was going to be a problem, being African, being an immigrant, but it was. Because I work at several companies, so it wasn't the case of, was this company or that. But usually the comment, the first thing people see is, oh, well, I didn't even know being a woman was a thing. Oh, she's a woman. And then she's Black. And then she's an immigrant. And then she's African. And then she has an accent. That had nothing to do with anything. So it was one of the things I had to struggle with time and time again, trying to prove myself, instead of just doing my thing and showing my work, I have to justify all my accomplishments. And then it was a whole thing. But that's one of the biggest challenges I had.
And you started the African Women in STEM. How do you discuss DIB challenges such as salary gaps, promotion, maternity leave, etc., with your colleagues, peers, and community?
I mean, no, I don't have staff, but I go with my experiences because I do work with women when I coach them and also in the community with all the events that we do. It took me a while to figure all this stuff out because my mom always worked. A working mom was not even a thing. So when I was going through all these challenges at work, I didn't know how to handle it. It took me a while to figure it out. So what I do right now is that I tell people, you need to first of all decide what you want for yourself. Be clear. Because for most of us women, or most people, when they go into their career, just thinking, oh, I want to work for this company, whatever happens, you just go with the flow. Most people don't stop to think, what do I actually want to achieve ultimately in this career? Do I want to impact life? Do I want to create change? Do I want to discover something? Do I want to be hold 10,000 patents? What it is. So knowing that will help guide you. Do I want to be a mom? Do I want to be a mom that is there for my kids? I learned something really important when I had a conference like that several years ago. I remember we were talking about the things they negotiated. And I was like, I didn't even know you could negotiate all these things. You know, one woman she traveled in the summer. She negotiated that if she's traveling, the company is going to pay for her child and the nanny the entire time. One had her fiance living in a different town. And I was like, she negotiated that every 2 weeks she's going to go or he's going to come and the company is going to pay for it. So, but I think it kind of goes back to what do you want in life? And if you know that and it's like forefront, then it's going to help you with everything else. So those are the conversations that I have with people about how to navigate their careers.
And there are many public and internal discussion about the barriers women of color, non-binary, and transgender individuals face from reaching high position or receiving funding in the tech industry. How have these issues affected you, and what is your advice on overcoming these roadblocks?
The reason that I'm where I am today is because of the experience I've had at work. When I started my career, I remember someone asking me once, how many women are in your company? I was like, oh, wait. Now that you said it, I haven't even thought about it, right? But as I rose in my career and got into C-level positions, I couldn't ignore it anymore. It was one of those things of the way I explain it is when they went to school and thought about getting a job and having a career, they did not account for me. So now that I'm here, they don't know what to do with me except to reject the idea of me. So I spent my whole career working with people who just wanted to reject the idea of me to the point that I spent a lot of time and energy on it. And I was always very optimistic though. I didn't understand sexism, I didn't understand racism, I didn't understand all of those things because I didn't grow up in an environment where I felt like I could never do anything because of who I was. It wasn't until I got to a particular point where, again, you're getting into senior roles, I began to realize I'm smart, but it's not enough. How do I navigate this besides doing what all these other people do that are not my thing? I couldn't find anyone. I was like, okay, fine, I'm going to be that person because I don't think I want anybody else to go through what I did. So I decided to start mentoring. So I started inviting my friends. And then when I was having those conversations with them, I realized that more than a mentor initiative, what people actually wanted was community. Because most of us were the only ones in our company and we're all over the country. We're not even close enough to support one another. So that's basically why I created African Women in STEM, because it was just an answer to a call. So one thing I needed and also realizing what people needed was just that community. And I always believed, again, going back to what I said earlier, in collaboration, working together. And there's no reason why you have to have an experience that someone else had if you can avoid it.
Well, thank you for sharing that. I do recognize myself a lot in that too. The reason I started the podcast, I've also been the only one in the room in many, many aspects. And then today, tech companies invest heavily, though, in marketing, attracting women of color, non-binary, and transgender individuals, but they're struggling to retain them. Articles show that women are leaving the tech industry. What is your best advice on strategies where companies can work to build a stronger corporate culture that engages the IB?
Back to building my community at African Women in STEM, because again, I believe in having conversations with people and learning from others. So I reached out to a friend of mine and we're having this conversation. He's a guy. We're talking about what were companies doing to hire diverse talent and retain them. So there was this experience that he told me about where companies always get excited. Oh, we're going to hire diverse talent and so on and so forth. So this particular company went out, they hired another black female that she left. So the issue isn't hiring. It was just that this is a company that had been around for a while. They had a certain culture. They had certain expectations. And none of those things were supported for the people they were trying to bring in. So it's not about hiring people. You can't have one person in a sea of all sorts of different people and expect them to survive or thrive. Hiring shouldn't be the first thing. But the reason why it's the first thing in most cases is that it's visible or you were like, oh, okay, the numbers are not great. Someone tells you your metrics are, the numbers are not great. So go hire somebody and make the numbers great. But I believe the hiring should be the first thing. What you need to create internally to support the people where you hire them. And also, if you can start building a relationship earlier. Like I give you an example. I worked for a company that I wanted to hire interns. So I was like, oh my God, it's exciting. I know a lot of people, that can work for this company. So I was calling up my friends and people that I knew that had kids in college. And the question I got was, what industry is that? What company is that? What did they do? They had no idea. So this is a company that has been around for a while. But because they'd never been in this environment, these people had no idea. And because they had no idea, they did not apply. I mean, that was painful to me, so maybe just building those relationships where you're more visible in the community and more visible in those environments that you want to be a part of, so that when you now come to hiring, it will be easier. I'll probably say in the last sense that change is not easy. Bias is a thing that people have, regardless of where you're from or who you are. But in these situations where the biases end up affecting and putting people in a way that is not helpful, I think the best thing to do is for the people that are already in the system, just prep them first. Whatever support they need in terms of training or just whatever changes you're making in the culture, it can be the culture in one thing today and the next day is a different thing. Nobody transitions like that. So just give grace to the people that are already existing so that everybody kind of like slowly but surely gets into this new world the company is trying to create.
Yeah, no, I agree. And you're talking about the whole thing about bringing in people. Looks great outside, but inside they can't barely breathe. And you mentioned all of this. And what would you say are the key challenges of implementing a DIB culture in a workplace in the tech industry today?
One of the things I mentioned earlier, bias is conscious or unconscious. I mean, they're there and they're that impactful when it's systemic bias. So this is how we've always done things. How do those biases impact people's day-to-day work? How does it impact their growth? How does it impact the fact whether or not they're promoted or whether or not they're hired? That's one thing. Lack of leadership buy-in, working corporations. I'll never forget this example when I was still in my career. I think we wanted something and I keep pushing for it. By we, I mean a few people at the company. So eventually they came in and said, okay, fine, you guys get together. They invited one of the senior leaders. We hosted this meeting and everybody just kind of talked about the things they wanted. Now, one of the things that company is that they hadn't hired entry-level engineers for like a period of like 7 to 8 or 10 years. So they were this highly qualified and then the people that come in, we felt that there was a gap we needed training. So after we spent a lot of time having this wonderful conversation and doing all those things, the guy was like, okay, fine. We're going to do whatever you want as long as it doesn't cost us money. It has to be sustained and it has to be visible. And then psychological safety, this idea of, do you feel safe at work, right? I will say for me, I'm slow to understand certain things because when all these things were happening to me in my career, I just thought it was something that I could fix. I didn't understand systemic bias. I didn't understand like conscious bias. I didn't understand all those things. But knowing what I know now and having conversations with all the women I've had conversations with in the past several years, either in the community, because at African Ministry, we also do things that we also invite people from other communities and open up to the peers, allies, advocates, or the people that I coach and mentor. Is a lot of people actually don't feel safe at work. And it doesn't matter. Sometimes men too, right? And then people from diverse gender, whatever the case may be. But I think psychological safety is one thing that is a challenge and one thing that is actually very important to help DIB.
Yeah, thank you for raising that. And why do you think it's then important for more women of color, non-binary, and transgenders to join the tech industry today and being a place where they feel like they have this environment that you're mentioning?
And then I thought about being a creative. So for me, I create with food is an art. So don't ask me to cook what I cooked before because I don't remember all the things I put in it. What I love about cooking is just the fact that I can just go to my cabinet, bring out all these ingredients and just kind of mix them up and see what comes out of it. But the reality is that the best foods don't have one ingredient in them. The more ingredients you put, if you know how to do it, the better. So what inclusive technology does is it benefits the company, it benefits the society because there's just so much diverse talent, diversity of thought, that is going to impact the services that you provide and the products that you make. And these days, how about these conversations around AI? Because that's the main thing now. People talk about generative AI. I went to this event and it was like a fireside chat. And this event was talking about how, for example, ChatGPT or most Gen AI are being trained with information from a certain part of the world. So what that means is that more than half of the world is excluded in this. So if you grow up and you've not been anywhere using ChatGPT, it doesn't represent the Southern Hemisphere. It doesn't represent a lot of people. So I think that's why it's important to have more women of color, non-binary, transgender, diverse people, period, because it just allows us the opportunity to be expansive and include more of the things that will actually make our products and services better for the world.
And how much do you think the tech industry has changed regarding DIB since you joined?
That's always a hard question because, again, I work in an industry that says, oh, that's Methuselah and some things are still the same. But then again, I transition into tech and I tend to see more women of color, transgender, all that. But all in all, we've made some progress, but I can say it's a lot of progress and there's room for more. And especially with the way the world is going right now, things are moving so fast that it's very, very hard to keep up. And the more people you have trying to help you keep up, the better. The more people we have that don't just have thinking one side of their brain, the better. I think things have changed, not as much as they should, but there's always room for improvement.
And then looking back on your career, what one thing would you have changed in your work environment to break the bias?
The fact that different is not bad. Difference is not bad. Difference is just different. That's it. Because what I realize and I see is people are like, they're afraid of change. I work in an industry where one of the things that they say is, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, or this is how we've always done things. Those two things don't help anybody. So if there's some now changes, just be open. You don't have to take everything on and embrace it. It's human nature to be wary of change or something that is different, but just be open-minded.
Let us move on to another hot topic in business today, which is work-life balance and mental health. You have undoubtedly a busy lifestyle. How do you take care of yourself to maintain a good mental health?
Sleep. Gratitude. I just became more intentional about being grateful and it is transformative. And then I give myself grace. Like I used to have so much expectations of what I should. I had a coach that we walked on the wall should. So I give myself grace now. I don't do too much.
Have you ever experienced burnout?
Oh, yes. Part of the reason why I'm here today is because burnout. And interesting thing is that I didn't know it was burnout. Because, when they talk about burnouts, there's still somebody that is like, I didn't think, because I did a lot, but I always thought I could manage everything. I actually read a book about burnout and I talked about it with my community of women and don't get burnt out, but I did. So what I'm doing right now, again, it goes back to giving myself, first of all, my body won't let me get to that point anymore. It just tells me when to stop. But I'm also learning to stop myself before my body tells me when to stop.
And what advice will you give companies that can create a more mentally healthy workplace in the new now?
Flexibility. Let people work in the way that they can maximize their potential, their abilities. And that happens with flexibility. The whole idea of you have to show up and be seen, work from time to certain time, it's great. But if you hire people that are smart and can give you a good work product, give them flexibility. And I think just having managers with empathy, just understanding that people are people. Not that, you don't have boundaries or you just allow people to take advantage of you, but there's a time for everything and we should be able to be open to being empathetic.
What would you say motivates you every day to get out of bed then?
I am so passionate about what I do. Like every day I'm like, oh my God, this is amazing. Even though the day before I just complained about how I can figure out some tech, but I always had the desire to make a difference. That's why I became an engineer. That's why I went into my industry. And now it's like every day I get to see how I make a difference and make an impact. And I just know that I have this incredible opportunity to just change the world and make it better for other people.
Well, just being part of this podcast and being you. Now, let us wrap up with a few words of wisdom and a piece of advice for our listeners. What is the best piece of advice you've been given that helped you during setbacks in your role and career?
You can't change people, so don't try to. People only change when they want to.
And then what's the worst advice you ever received and how did you end up tackling that?
Limit your expectations. I once had someone tell me I could never get into senior leadership, that the best I can do is to make a lot of moves. Well, after that, I became a senior director.
And is there something you wish you would have known or a skill you wish you had when starting out in the tech industry?
It's still a cultural thing because being from Nigeria and just the whole cultural thing of don't talk about the things that you do, especially if you're in the United States, if you don't talk about the accomplishments, you're dead in the water. So if I had known, get more comfortable with talking about my accomplishments and the things that I do. I'm doing better now.
And if you had the ability to go back in time when you were just at the beginning of your career, what advice would you give to your younger self?
Don't ever lose your voice, ever. Because I feel like I had a really big voice and I had family and people that didn't tell me I couldn't have a voice. But going through my corporate career, I lost it somewhere. I found it again, but I'm just going to say don't ever lose your voice.
And what advice will you give then to young girls, women of color, non-binary, and transgenders who are trying to break into STEM fields today, especially wanting to become next generation leaders and founders?
You belong here, take up space, period. Don't let anyone, but especially yourself, put limitations on what you can do and what you can accomplish. Because that's the biggest one. We are our worst critics.
Last but not least, what is next for you in your role in your career? What's next for African women in tech? And you have all these ideas. So what are your career aspirations from now on?
I'm a dreamer. I dream big. So my focus is continuing to expand the impact that my organization has, building a vibrant global network of African women in STEM. Like literally, I see myself having this community of 1 million women who are just transformed through the work that we do, and having this culture where people are able to be empowered, thrive, lead, innovate, and just do more. And on the more personal side, which is like what I do with my leadership and coaching, because I'm very passionate about that too. I just want to help more women just come into themselves, help them accelerate their careers, help them lead, innovate, but most importantly, help them earn more. And thinking of 100,000 women, but who knows?
Why not? I look forward to that. And thank you for you doing all of that, because that is a part of the change that we all need. So thank you very much, Adaeze, for being a guest on the Queens of Tech podcast, sharing your journey will without a doubt inspire change and reshape company culture for the next generation of women of color, non-binary, and transgender leaders and founders in tech.
Thank you so much. This was absolutely amazing.
Thank you for listening. For more podcast episodes and to learn more about the Queens of Tech initiative and to support us, visit queensof.tech.